Considering that next week is Chanukah, and Chanukah is a very unique holiday, and in order to benefit to the maximum what Chanukah brings for us and brings for Klal Yisrael, I decided to dedicate this shmooze completely to the concepts of Chanukah and how we can utilize Chanukah to the maximum. The problem with Chanukah is that it's a regular day. At night you light the candles, you say Hallel in the day, you say Ala Nisim, different prayers, but the rest of the day is just a regular day. There's nothing special. Purim, you have the Sudas Purim, Shlach Manos, it keeps you busy. Other holidays have different types of restrictions and responsibilities. But Chanukah is restricted to a very small period of time where you're really reacting with Chanukah or interacting with Chanukah. And therefore it's important to know what is so special about this period of time in order to utilize it properly. I remember I was learning in Yeshivat Mir, goes back nearly 40 years ago, even more than 40 years ago in fact, but I don't want to say how many. And it was my first year in the Mir, and in the Mir, especially in those days, it was really cold. There was no heating, and generally the Gashmias, the physical standards in the Mir were still the olden days, the Yerushalmi standards, and I was a little bit under the weather, besides the fact that I didn't have that many friends in the Mir. So I decided that, as we will see, Chanukah is the holiday which is dedicated to Torah Shebaal Peh. And we will see also that both Chanukah and Purim have a concept of Torah Shebaal Peh, the oral law, and we'll have to understand what's the difference between the oral law which is emphasized for Purim and the oral law which is emphasized for Chanukah. But I decided if Chanukah is Torah Shebaal Peh, which means understanding Torah yourself, that I'll try to understand something new, make some type of chidushay Torah, and this will be my job, my effort to celebrate Chanukah properly. So if any of you have ever said a chabura, to sit down and say chidushim, it's not so easy, but start taking the text, the sources, start analyzing them, and trying to come to a new insight that you haven't had before. That's the idea of a chidush, and especially in Torah Shebaal Peh, there's a need for chidush, new ideas, new concepts, new understandings, and especially in Chanukah. So I opened up the Rambam, and I started reading the Rambam to see what I could understand new in the Rambam. So the Rambam in Hilchos Chanukah says like this: the Bayis Sheni Kishem-molchu Yovam, in the second temple, when the Greeks were reigning in Eretz Israel, in Israel, Gazu Gzeiris al Yisrael, they made all kinds of decrees against the Jewish people. Bitlu Daitam, decrees against their religion. V'lo hinichosam lasok b'Torah v'mitzvahs, and didn't allow them to learn Torah and to do mitzvahs. Uposhtu yodam b'mamoinim v'nosehem, and they took their money and they took their daughters. V'nichnusu leheichal uporzo protzos v'timu ha'tairis. They went into the temple, the holy temple, and they broke down the wall and they made everything defiled. V'tzar lehem liYisrael mod, and they had a lot of difficulties. Ad shirichem aleim elokei avuseinu v'hoshia miyodam v'itzilam v'govru b'nei Chashmonoi hakohanim hagdoilam, and the house of Chashmonoi, the Kohanim, the great Kohanim, we'll see what that means. V'horgom v'hoshia Yisrael miyodam. And Kadosh Baruch Hu saved them, and they set up a malchus, a new kingship. And after this happened, on Chof Hei B'Kislev, they entered the Beis Hamikdash, and they only found a small pach shemen, a small vial of oil, and it lit for 8 days. ומפני זה התקינו חכמים שבאויס הדור שיש 8 הימים האלו. Therefore, the rabbis of that generation, they decided to make these 8 days a holiday. Now, the first thing which struck me in the Rambam over here is, what is the Rambam telling us this whole history? The Rambam is not a history book, and if we take a look at Hilchos Megillah, which should be more or less parallel to Hilchos Chanukah, the Rambam starts Hilchos Megillah, Kriyas HaMegillah Bizmana Mitzvah Tasei Midivrei Sofrim. There's a mitzvah from the rabbi, from the Sofrim, from the scribes, V'Devorim Yaduim Shuhu Takonos Neviim. And everybody knows it's a Takonos Neviim. V'akol chayovim b'kriyoso, and he starts talking about the halachas of Megillah. So in Hilchos Megillah, he starts off right away. There's a mitzvah of Megillah and finished. No history, no, there was Achashverosh and Esther. And by Chanukah, it tells us this whole history, what happened, what didn't happen. So I said a pshat at that time, which I'm going to tell you over. Lately, I found that Rav Moshe Shapiro says more or less the same thing, but I don't know if I said it before him, but I definitely said it 40 years ago, so it's a long time ago. But we'll see it's a little bit different. What I said was like this. We know that there's a mitzvah, that there are commandments which the rabbis can decree for us. But to make a new mitzvah, to make a new holiday, this is something which is not necessarily within the parameters of the rabbis. So therefore, the Rambam says like this, B'bayis Sheni, during the Second Temple, Second Temple, there were no prophets. And therefore, if we're going to make a new mitzvah, we have to have a real justification for it. So the Rambam says, historically, there was a justification. And there was a miracle that the oil burnt for 8 days. So this created a justification that the Chachamim, even the sages, they can make a new holiday. So the Rambam has to explain to us, how can we have Chanukah? Rabbis can make a new holiday. So he explains, historically, there was a miracle, therefore the rabbis can do it. But in the time of the Megillah was when there were still prophets. It's Tikonos Hanavim, that the prophets themselves can make a new mitzvah that's an extension, really, of Torah Shebichtav. It's an extension of prophecy, so that we don't have to have any explanations. This is obvious. So it comes out that there's an intrinsic difference between Purim and Chanukah. Chanukah is Takonos Chachamim, Tiknu Chachamim. Purim is Takonos Hanavim, the prophets made that Takonah. Now, once we understand that, we can understand a number of things about Chanukah and also how to relate to Chanukah. So I told you before that the rabbis say that Purim was dedicated for the concept of Torah Shebaal Peh, that we have an oral law. And Chanukah was also dedicated for the concept that we have an oral law. So what's the difference of the concept of Purim and the concept of Chanukah? So we have to understand. And here I will give you a piece from Rav Hutner, which is very important. And from this we will understand something that is very basic for our understanding in what we're doing in yeshiva and what we're doing in Or Sameach. Rav Hutner asks, we say that in the brachas which we say on Torah, the first bracha we say is Asher Bocher Banu Mikol Ha'amim, that we were chosen as a chosen people. Then we have a bracha Asher Nosan Lanu Toras Emes, that He gave us a true Torah. So Rav Hutner explains that this is parallel to Torah Shebichtav and Torah Shebaal Peh, the written law and the oral law. The written law is the Chumash, and it would seem to be the most important thing about learning. Says Rav Hutner, no. The oral law is what makes us different than all the other nations of the world. When we come to yeshiva, we don't come to study. We come to be changed in our very essence. That we have a special relationship to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and that special relationship which we have is unique to us, and it cannot be imitated anyplace else. The Gemara says that the Yevonim, the Greeks, they forced us to translate the Torah Shebichtav into Greek. The Gemara says when that happened, the whole world became dark. But what was the bottom line of this whole thing? Today, you have Christianity, you have Muslims. They say, we're the Jewish people, we're the Jewish people, we're the religion. To imitate the Jewish people with the Torah Shebichtav, that's possible. But Torah Shebaal Peh, the oral law, which is a relationship directly between us and the Torah, as a special covenant to us, that can only be created by the Jewish people, for the Jewish people, and only in yeshiva. Any place else, you can become a shomer Torah mitzvahs. They can make you maybe a Baal Tshuva, and that you stop doing Aveiros. Okay, but that's not enough. We have to have this special relationship, this special ability to relate directly to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That is the oral law, and that is the special present that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave to the Jewish people, and that is the covenant that He made for the Jewish people, and that can only be learned in yeshiva, and mostly in Or Sameach. I mean, other yeshivas also, but if you're starting from the beginning, so Or Sameach is the best place to do it. But we have to understand, this is not a place to make you a Baal Tshuva. This is a place to connect you to a Kadosh Baruch Hu in the Ramach, in the Shasa, in your very existence, in your very being. That being said, we can understand the difference between Chanukah and Purim. There are two aspects of Torah Sheba'al Peh. One aspect of Torah Sheba'al Peh is to explain the Torah. What does the Torah mean? What is tefillin? Is tefillin a brown box, a black box, a red box, right? You're supposed to slaughter an animal. How do you slaughter it? You shoot it in the head, right? You don't know what to do. So Torah Sheba'al Peh explains. It's an extension of the Torah Shebechtav. Who was the one that taught us Torah Shebechtav? Who was the one that explained the Torah Shebechtav? Who was the one that extended it to Torah Sheba'al Peh? That's Moshe Rabbeinu. And that is really what Purim is all about. It's a repetition of the original accepting of the Torah. They accepted the Torah at Har Sinai. They didn't want to accept the oral law. They were afraid of the fire, whatever. They had to re-accept it again, and re-accept it with the understanding that even though Mordechai did things which didn't make any sense and caused all damage to Klal Yisrael, and it seems that the rabbis don't know what they're talking about and they're giving us all kinds of problems. No, the rabbis know how to interpret the Torah properly, and that interpretation is the real extension of the Torah. That is what we learn from Purim. But Chanukah is an entirely new thing. Not only can we interpret the Torah, we can create new Torah. We, with our understanding, with our delving into the depths of what the Torah is all about, can create a takonos chachamim, not a takonos neviim, a takonos chachamim, which means that the rabbis created a new holiday. How can they do it, the Gemara asks? So the Gemara says in the Torah, Lo Yoser, that you have to listen to the words of the Chachamim. But Chanukah is all about we being able to create new Torah. And those of us that listen to my shir, but don't listen to that shir, participate sometimes, see and understand that I'm not teaching you information. I'm teaching you how to think independently, come to your own conclusions, and understand things in an independent way. But not independent that you divorce yourself from the tradition of the Jewish people. But the tradition of the Jewish people is reinforced by the fact that every generation creates its own Torah, every generation creates its new concepts, its new ideas, how to relate to new situations. And that's what Chanukah is all about. Chanukah is the Torah Sheba'al Peh of Chachamim. The Chachamim created a new thing. And this we can see also in a deeper understanding of what Chanukah and Purim are. I told you a little story about being in the Mir Yeshiva many years ago. Now I'll tell you a story which is even older than that. I was in Toronto, and Toronto, near Yisrael in Toronto, they had a custom on Lag BaOmer to make a bonfire. In America now it's become more of a custom. My days, nobody made a bonfire except for those people that had a little bit of, how would I say this, a Zionistic relationship to their things, even though it has nothing to do with Zionism, whatever. But anyway, in Toronto, they made a bonfire. So I was asked to speak at the bonfire. So I have to speak about something, so I have to work again and try to understand something and try to make it something new. So I noticed that Lag BaOmer, if you take a look at the Sidurim, each day of the days between Pesach and Shavuos of the Sfiras Omer, it has a different sphera, a different day which relates to Chesed, Gvura, Tiferes, Netzach, Hod, Yisod. So a different sphere, a different relationship that the Kodesh Baruch Hu has with us. So Lag BaOmer is Hod Shebahod. Hod, we'll explain in a few minutes, is one of those relationships which the Kodesh Baruch Hu has for us. And Aaron HaKohen is the representative of this relationship in the forefathers which we have. So Hod Shebahod, Lag BaOmer has to do with the concept of Aaron HaKohen. Fine. I explained that Aaron HaKohen has to do with the unity of Klal Yisrael, that he loves everybody, and this unity of Klal Yisrael is the source of all Kabbalah. Kabbalah teaches us that we're all one people, and therefore the Zohar was given on Lag BaOmer. That's what I said at the time. When you learn Torah Shebaal Peh, and you learn it properly, there is a phenomena that things grow. You learn one concept, then another concept, and then each concept gives you a foundation to understand new concepts, and things become one and they unite. So we're talking about Chanukah. So the Arizal says that Chanukah is Midas HaHod, and Purim is Midas HaNetzach. What does that mean? In the constellation of the relationship which we have to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, so the higher relationships are called Keser, Chochma, Bina, and then each of the holidays has a certain influence on us. For instance, Pesach is considered Chesed, because HaKadosh Baruch Hu helped us out to get out of Egypt. Shavuos is considered Gevura, it's considered the time where Kadosh Baruch Hu gives us laws, how we're supposed to act. Sukkot is considered Tferes. It's when we relate to the beauty of the Torah and the beauty of their mitzvahs. And those are the three major holidays. You have Pesach, Shavuos, and Sukkot. And after Sukkot, we have 6 months, no holidays. From Sukkot until Pesach, according to the Torah, there's no holidays whatsoever. So, what happened? The rabbi saw that even though originally we were supposed to get so much spiritual energy from Pesach, from Sukkot, that it should last for the whole winter. But then the rabbi saw we're not going to be able to make it. They made Purim. Give us a little bit less time without a holiday. The rabbi saw we're not going to be able to make it. They gave us Chanukah in order to strengthen us during this period of time. And these two holidays are considered Netzach, that's Purim. Netzach is Moshe Rabbeinu. Netzach is the Av. Moshe Rabbeinu is the Av of all the Nevi'im, all the prophets. So therefore, as I said, Purim is an extension of prophecy. Therefore, it was made by the Nevi'im, and therefore it's an extension of our learning the Torah, understanding the Torah. Chanukah, which is the 8th Sphira, Hod, which has 8 days, that is Keneged Aaron HaKohen. So we said Aaron HaKohen is Hod. Lag BaOmer is Hod Shebahod. Chanukah is also the holiday of Hod, of glory. And who are the ones that made this holiday? The Kohanim. So therefore, Kohanim have to do with Hod. Therefore, in Lag BaOmer you have Hod Shebahod. That was Aaron HaKohen. You have Chanukah, which is Hod, which is also the concept of the Kohanim, which saved us from the Greeks. Now, what is this concept, the 8th of Hod, that we have? So this has to do with the very conflict which we have between the Greeks and us. The Greeks say that there's a philosophy, there's a physical world, there's a way that we can understand that world, and that understanding is the real truth. We come along and we say, no, there's an inner truth which stands behind the outer manifestations which we have in the physical world, and that inner truth is really what controls the world and really what makes everything exist. In the Lashon of the rabbis, you have chokhmas chitzonius, you have the outer understanding of the world, chokhmah, knowledge, and then you have chokhmas hapnimius. You have the inner understanding of how the world works and how it functions. Therefore, we have the menorah. The menorah has 7 lights to it, 7 sticks to it. What is it called? 7 branches. It has 7 branches. And the Gra says that these 7 branches are parallel to 7 chokhmot, 7 different types of sciences. He mentions mathematics, he mentions biology, physics. I don't remember all 7 at the time. And the Gaon of Vilna says to understand Torah properly, you have to be able to understand the physical world also. It's part of our understanding of the Torah. But that is the Chochmas Chitzonius. It's outside, it's in the Kodesh. What do we have after that? We have inside the Torah inside the Kodesh HaKadoshim, in the Holy of Holies. There you have the Aron Kodesh, which is the Torah in its purity. So those that want to understand what's really going on in the world, they have to be able to enter the Kodesh HaKadoshim. They have to enter the inner sanctity of the Beis Hamikdash, of the temple, which is the Chochmos Hapnimius, which is the Torah Shebal Peh, which we get through the Chochmos Hapnimius of the Aron HaKodesh. So who's the one that goes into the Kodesh HaKadoshim? The only person that can go into the Kodesh HaKadoshim is the Kohen Gadol. So who are the ones that taught us that there's Chochmos Pnimius, that there are Soidis HaTorah, there are things which are deeper than what meets the eye? The Kohanim. So therefor, Lag BaOmer was by Kohanim, and that time we got the Sisrei HaTorah, we got the Zohar. On Chanukah, we have to be able to look past the physical world, and by looking past the physical world, going past the 7 Kanei HaMenorah to the Shminis, to the 8th, to the Hod, then we can come and understand the inner aspects of Torah, the Chochmas HaPnimius, and that's the special thing which we get, the ability on Chanukah to relate to these things. Now, how do we do that? What does the word Hod mean? What is the concept of Hod? So, the Meforsh should explain that there is Hadar, there's beauty, and there is Hod, which is also a sort of majesty. What's the difference between the beauty of Hadar and the Hod, the majesty of Hod? So they say that Hadar is something which is superficial. You have very nice clothes, gold, silver, jewels, but Hod is an inner glory, an inner presence which comes from the very essence of the being. Therefore, majesty is something which comes from the inside of a person, from his very essence, from his very being. So therefore, Hod comes from the Kohanim HaGdolim. So that's an interesting thing. How many Kohanim Gdolim did they have? It says here that the Bnei Chashmonoim HaKohanim HaGdolim. Usually there's only one Kohen. But the idea of Kohanim Gdolim means that they understood the Pnimius of Torah. They understood that there's more than meets the eye. And we have the ability to relate to that. And only we have the ability to relate to that through the Chochmah of Torah Shebal Peh. And that gave them the ability to overcome the Greeks which felt that the only thing we have is the physical world which we can relate to. If you know, by the Jewish people, there was a period of time which was called the Haskalah. I'm not sure if you know what that means. There was a period of time, the late 1800s, beginning of the 1900s, that a lot of Jewish people stopped believing in the Torah and the mitzvahs because they said, you have science. Science explains everything. And even the scientists themselves, they felt it's only going to be a period of time until we can explain everything according to science. At that time, we lost a lot of Jewish people because they were attracted by the glistening, by the outer beauty of the science, and they thought, this is the truth. As we know now, especially the last few decades, science has come to understand that it can't understand everything. Parallelly, the Jewish people and their ability to relate to different concepts of godliness, of different concepts of how being able to understand what it means to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu, have become stronger and stronger. And the Meforshim say that is really how the world is supposed to work. That through the amount of difficulties which we have, through the extent that there is an attack on the Jewish people, to that extent, our ability to overcome that is what Hod is all about. That's where we have real majesty and real glory. And therefore, part of the holiday of Chanukah was how much the Yevonim attacked us, how much the Yevonim were successful in attacking us, and afterwards being able to overcome that and being able to see beyond the physical into the spiritual, and being able to see the ner of the 8 days that this oil burnt. So there's an interesting thing. The Gemara says that when HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the world, he created the world with a special light. And that light was not felt that it could be used for everyday life, and it was put away, it was hidden for the tzaddikim, for the holy people, for the righteous people in the generations. So the Gemara says that light you could see from one side of the world to the other. That light is the light of Chanukah. Someone that looks at the Nerot of Chanukah, and this I'm getting a bit Hasidish in this, but nonetheless this is true, that somebody that looks at the light of Chanukah, when you light the Neros, Chanukah at night, and you look at them, you can see a little bit of the ore which was from Sheshis and Braces. It gives you an ability to see things more than ordinarily. If you say the concept of Hallel, when you say the concept of Hallel and you're moded to Chadosh Baruch Hu, you admit that everything which we have comes from Him, and you admit that all that we do only has a meaning in the context of having a relationship to Chadosh Baruch Hu. That gives you the power of what Chanukah is all about. What's better, to be menatzeach, to win over your enemy, to overcome him, or is it better to have your enemy make peace with you, to agree to have a good relationship with you, to say that you're okay? We said that Purim was Netzach, that the Jewish people overcame, they conquered, they killed the Amalekim. Chanukah is Hod. What does Hod mean? That they admit, that they say Hoda'ah. When they see this person, they say he's something special, he's something great, he's something unique. When there was a rabbi by the name of Moshe Pardo. Moshe Pardo was a businessman, and he came to Israel from Morocco, and he used to live in Bnei Brak. When he was in Bnei Brak, he used to see the girls, the Beis Yaakov, that used to wander around. He saw them in the streets, and he saw the girls that didn't learn in Beis Yaakov. So he said to himself that there's such a beauty, such a hod, such a majesty to these girls in Beis Yaakov. Why can't it be that the daughters of our families, of the Moroccan families at that time, why can't they have this same majesty, this same hod? And therefore he started Orach Chaim, girls for schools, and now today you have hundreds and thousands of girls that are Beis Yaakov, this Beis Yaakov, that Beis Yaakov, and the majesty, the hod, the beauty of the type of life that these girls have, and also the same things by children that go to cheder. They have a special light, a special uniqueness to them. So hod is something that people admit this is something special. So our winning over the Yevonim, our winning over the Greek philosophies, are that we get them to appreciate and understand that our philosophy is more. So we have Netzach. Netzach has the advantage that when you conquer somebody, you control. But they're also constantly trying to fight back. Hod has the Hoda'ah has the property to it that they agree, they admit it. But it has the lack of the fact that you're not forcing them, they have to come to their own conclusion. So over this period of time, the period of time between Pesach and between Sukkot and Pesach, that we want to continue the message of Sukkot, make it part of our lives, we have to have the concept of Purim, which is the concept of Netzach, the concept of Nevuah, of understanding the Torah and learning it and understanding what the Torah says. And you also have to have the concept of Hoda'ah, of Hod, that they appreciate and understand, that we appreciate and understand the uniqueness of the Jewish people, and that we can be benefit from the Or Hagonus. We can see that light, which gets us to see things that other people can't see. We can create new Torah, we can create new mitzvahs, and this Or Hagonus is a light that anybody that learns Torah properly gets a piece of that light. And on Chanukah, it's easier if we say the Hallel with an appreciation that everything comes from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. If we say, we light the candles and look into the candles to appreciate HaKadosh Baruch Hu's special relationship to us, then we can get on Chanukah a newer, deeper, closer relationship to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, which will help us in everything we do. Now there's one more thing that I want to say. As I was saying, the Torah Shebal Peh is something which builds on itself. I told you about Toronto, Hod Shebahod, Kohanim, Torah Sanister. We find it here by Chanukah, Kohanim, Ketanim Gdoilim, entering the Kodesh HaKadoshim, Torah Sanister. Things build up. Netzach and Hod are considered like the Raglaim, the feet. When they relate to the different sfirot, the different flows, emanations which HaKadosh Baruch Hu give to us, so each one represents a different part of the body. The Keser is the head. We have Chesed and Gvura, which are the arms, Tiferes, which is the body, and then Netzach and Hod are like the feet, Raglaim. Now, what is the purpose of the Raglaim? What is the purpose of the feet? So the Meforshim explain that a person to be able to stand needs feet. A person to be able to get where he wants to go needs feet. The idea that HaKadosh Baruch Hu relates to the world on a theoretical basis is very good. But in order for it to really be effective, we have to see how it's implemented in our life, in everyday life, in everything we do. Therefore, the Raglaim, the Netzach and Hod, represent how we implement the Torah, how we get it into everyday life. Therefore, the mitzvah of Chanukah and Purim are mitzvahs d'Rabbanan. It's us that implement it, it's us that have this relationship, it's us that propagate this relationship. But it's even more than that. The idea is that we have to be able to relate directly to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu's relationship to us is through the Netzach and the Hod. Now, one more story, and this will have to end. When I was in Bnei Brak, see, I told you about Toronto, I told you about the Mir, now I'm going to tell you about Bnei Brak. When I first got married, I moved to Bnei Brak, learned called Chazon Ish, and at that time, there was a yeshiva for Balei Tshuva in Bnei Brak. And Rav Noach Weinberg, he started it, but many yeshivas that he started. And at that time, Rav Nochem Isaac was the head of the yeshiva, and he asked me to speak there. So I said a shir on Medrash. Now, in this shir on Medrash, I spoke about different midrashim, and one of the things that I spoke about was about the fact that Esav was considered a Rosha, and the Targum says over there that he had a snake on his leg, Nachash Yarchum, a snake on his leg. So at that time I taught the Shalah HaKadosh, and the Shalah HaKadosh says that when the Sar of Esav touched the Yerach, the thigh of Yaakov, he put that snake, so to speak, into his thigh, and for that reason there was no prophecy for many, many years. And only by Shmuel Hanavi, when he sacrificed a thigh of a cow, and he called Shaul to come to him, then Shaul became a prophet, and the concept of prophecy became more spread through the Jewish people. So we have that the Yerach, the thigh, represents HaKadosh Baruch Hu appearing and showing himself in this world. So Netzach and Hod, which are the thighs, represent HaKadosh Baruch Hu manifesting himself physically in this world. So on Chanukah, there's a very interesting halacha. On Chanukah, you don't have to make a Sudas mitzvah. There's no mitzvah to go ahead and eat. On Purim, there's a Sudas Purim. On Pesach, you have the Leila Seder. There's always a mitzvah to eat. On Chanukah, there's no mitzvah to eat. But the Meforshim say, what do? You should make a siyum. You should say Divrei Torah. And during that siyum, that Divrei Torah, the Suda, the party that you have, becomes a Sudas mitzvah. So the question is, why are you telling this? Every mitzvah, every place you have a Sudas mitzvah, you have a siyum, becomes a Sudas mitzvah. So I explain like this. All year round, you can have a mitzvah of eating on a holiday. Or you can have a Sudas mitzvah because you need it. You have a Siyum Masechta, you have a Bris Milah. On Chanukah, there's a special necessity to take the physical world, a regular meal, and make out of that meal a holy meal. Because the idea of Chanukah and Purim is to take spirituality, to bring it into this world. To take things which other people could not only understand and make it manifest in this world. So the purpose of Chanukah is to make spirituality manifest in the physical world. So therefore there's a special mitzvah. Don't have a mitzvah of eating, that wouldn't accomplish anything. That you take a regular day, a regular meal, and you make it a holy day. So therefore, what did I say? Chanukah is strange. You only have the Suda, you only have the Hadlokas Ner, and you have the Hallel. The rest of the day, it's a regular day. True, the rest of the day is a regular day, but the purpose is to take that regular day and use it within the format, within the prism of religious spirituality, then you have accomplished what Chanukah is all about. Taking a regular day and making it special. So therefore I end off with this. We have another week until Chanukah. Number one, try on Chanukah to make a chidush. You say your own Torah, to say something that you understand, that you made up, and try to get other people to agree with you. It's Torah Shabbal Peh that you're mechadish. Number two, set up Chanukah in such a manner that when you light the candles, you think about there's or hagonus. There's a light which we can get, which we can see further than physicality. We can see spirituality. How do we do this? Through Hallel. When we say Hallel and we recognize that everything comes from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and when we recognize that everything comes from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, He relates to us and gives us special powers and special help. And to show and give it some meaning, to make a Chanukah party here, a Divrei Torah there, a Siyum there, to fill Chanukah with as much spirituality which is initiated by us. Not which we have to do, but because we want to do it and we want to bring spirituality in this world. If we accomplish that, we will accomplish what the purpose of what Chanukah is all about. On Chanukah we say Moz Tzur. Moz Tzur is a song which talks about all four of the different times when the Jewish people were in exile, where they were exiled by the Romans, by the Greeks, they were exiled by the Persians. So we have all the different exiles. And then at the end it says, Chsof Zroa Kodshecha, the Korev Ketz HaYeshua, that we should have the Kadosh Baruch Hu appear in this world, and we should have the redemption. Because Chanukah is the last of the holidays. That's the last thing which we have to accomplish what the Torah wants from us. How do we accomplish what the Torah wants from us? By bringing spirituality in this world, by recognizing our unique place in this world, and recognizing our unique relationship to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. If we do that, we will zoiche leketz HaYeshua be'ezrat Hashem b'korov.